Hello, Laker fans. Welcome to the Late Late Show. I'm your host, Matt from Lakers UK. For this episode, I'm joined by Jonathan, who is practically my co-host now. How are you doing, mate?
All good, mate. Really good kind of time. Hopefully, Lakers are coming back soon. It looks like it's going to be likely, but yeah, really good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, mate. And there is someone else. If you're seeing the visuals of this, you'll see that. If on the audio, you won't have a clue. But it's Cole, and he's actually making his debut on the podcast. He's a contributor to Lakers UK, a very good one at that. And how are you doing, Cole?
All right, how's it going?
Yeah, good. Are you excited?
Yeah, I mean, it's something new anyway.
Well, in this episode, we're going to chat about how we became Laker fans from over on this side of the pond. It'll be pretty informal. We'll just have a good old chinwag, really, like we do off air. And a few other topics will probably stem off that. Are we ready to start, lads?
Yeah, all good.
Okay, so how and when did you both become Laker fans? If you give us a little bit of a background into it occurring, is there a little bit of a story? Jonathan, we'll start with you, and then Cole will go after, and then I'll go after that, and we'll just flow off each other, okay? So how you became a Laker fan, how and when?
Yeah, I became a Laker fan in, I think it was 1999. Remember my granduncle, like my father's uncle, came over from LA. Like he was a big shot accountant over there and was living and working in LA. And he brought over a lot of stuff from America, and he bought me like Dodgers gear, he bought me LA Kings stuff, and he bought me a Lakers jersey. And I looked at the Lakers jersey because compared to the rest of them, it was like really, really colorful, really kind of golden and purple. And I was like, who is this team? And I was like, oh, it's like the best team out there. And I was like, okay, I'll see how this goes. So I think it was the year, it would have been the year 2000, like, I think during the Portland series, again, like Lakers against Portland. That's when I kind of really fell in love with the Lakers. And obviously Game 7 was incredible, where they kind of came back from like a really far deficit. And ever since then, I've been absolutely hooked. So yeah, and so he passed, I think, like 2 or 3 years ago. So made me kind of reinvigorate my love of the Lakers even more over the last couple of years. So yeah, I loved the Lakers since about the year 2000, 1999. Love them.
Okay, that's cool. And you, Cole?
Well, mine's a bit more of a recent story, to be honest. I got into basketball through playing NBA 2K on PlayStation. I picked it up, around 2015 when it came out. I thought I'd try it because I was bored of everything else, basically. And I just really got into basketball and fell in love with basketball. And then it was picking a team from that point, because obviously being over here, you don't have any kind of geographical standing to base it off to start with. So it was basically just picking from 30 teams. I was teetering a bit and in between teams a bit. And the thing that cemented it was the fact that it was Kobe's last season. Mm-hmm. And just watching the love around that and all the stuff that was coming out about his history and stuff. Obviously, everything that I've had to relive since becoming a Laker fan, because I was around for it originally. And that's kind of what cemented it. And Kobe's last game was massive in me starting to just... I remember Kobe's last game was obviously before the playoffs where Cleveland won. And it cemented me staying up to watch basketball, basically. And I remember I stayed up for almost every night for the playoffs, which killed me. But I remember it was my GCSE year. I just finished GCSE, so it was fine. I wasn't doing anything, so it didn't matter. But I just stayed up every night, and that's just what made me kind of fall in love with it over football, which is what you push towards over here, obviously.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because I sit in the middle of both of you, which is quite interesting having us on. And I didn't realise that actually prior to the pod. But for me, it was mainly around 2009-10. I mean, I thought I was a late starter, but here in Cole, obviously, a lot sooner. It's not about when you start, it's where we are now. And it was about 2009-10. I think it was mainly the latter. I mean, like Cole, it was mainly the 2K games for me. I was very heavy on. Well, I started when I was younger playing like rugby league. That's like up north in England. That's like one of the main sports. And then I leaned towards football, and then just fell in love with football. And then I kind of like started falling out of love with football a little bit, and soccer to any American listeners. And then I picked up 2K, and I've always been a little bit like lent on the different side. Like I like getting into stuff that's new that people don't really like, or don't really like pay attention to. So I got picked up the 2K games, learned kind of the fundamentals of the sport from the 2K games, to be honest with you, like the rules and how the game's played and things like that. And I think it was about 2009-10. I don't remember the 2009 championship, but I remember the 2010 championship. But it was kind of a bit of a slow burner for me, to be perfectly honest with you. So it was mainly like the first few years I was a bit on and off. And then when we got whitewashed by the Spurs, was that in 2013, was it?
Spurs 2013. Yeah, I was thinking of
Yeah.
Mavericks 2011.
Yeah, so it was mainly that time when I really started getting into it during the rebuilding years. So obviously this season was very special, with it being like the first proper winning team that I've been paying full on attention to, being all in. And it was mainly Kobe that got me into it, to be honest with you. I picked the best team on the 2K games and lent towards being a bit of a glory hunter, but I don't support a good football team. So I thought I might as well have a little bit of fun with that. And it's just stuck, to be honest with you. I have actually just fallen in love with the team. I know that's a bit cliche, but yeah, it's I love NBA and the Lakers more than football now, like hands down.
Same. I'm a huge Manchester United fan, and like even now I'd consider myself a bigger Lakers fan than I would a United fan. And the one thing about NBA 2K, like I really, when I listened to both of you talk about it, that played a huge part in like further like over the years kind of developing my love for Kobe. Like Kobe was a cheat code on NBA 2K. It was just, you get him, and if you're playing online, you're going to just destroy who you're going to play, just because Kobe could make any and every shot.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And what about in terms of me, it was, like I said, it was a bit of a slow burner. It took me kind of like a few years of being in and out, kind of understanding it, it took me a long time to understand like the rules and the way to play the game, to be perfectly honest with you. Like probably until like a few years ago, to be fair, like that recent. But was it a slow burner for you guys as well? Did you or did you just jump straight in there?
For me, yeah, I think it was pretty much straight in. Like I played basketball all the way through school. I wouldn't have been able to focus on, since the games were on so late, and I was probably in the year 2010. So yeah, it was hard to stay up late for the games. But any game I could watch on Sky Sports, I would. But yeah, it probably took until about the late 2010s. The late 2008, 2009, where I could properly like kind of stay up, like watch the games. And like the Lakers series against the Celtics and Lakers series against the Magic would have been probably where I've kind of really kicked off once again. Like I was watching games, trips and drabs, but yeah, that was where I really exploded into kind of like, oh, this is going to be like a lifelong obsession with this team. So yeah, definitely would have been around then.
Yeah. What about you, Cole? Was it a slow burner?
Yeah, it was really, because obviously I was like you. I learned a lot about the game from playing it on the PlayStation, and that's where my main source of it came from, and I learned all the fundamentals from it. And then obviously that 16 playoff run came with Cleveland, which was amazing to watch as your first final series.
Historic.
To witness. And then it's kind of drips and drabs after that, because I remember teetering between wanting to be a Golden State fan because they were the best team in the game, and then kind of like, I don't really want to be a Golden State fan because everybody hates Golden State. So I remember teetering, and Kobe was obviously a massive factor in me choosing the Lakers eventually. But because the next few years for the Lakers was so slow burning, it was difficult to get into it, kind of thing, like fall hard for it. And it was when LeBron came where I really got into it, obviously. So what was that? Not even 2 seasons ago, not even 2 full seasons ago, when I fell proper hard for it. But obviously I've been into the basketball realm of it for the last 5 years or so. But until recently, I haven't been like staying up watching every Laker game kind of thing, but now it's an obsession of mine.
Yeah, exactly. So it sounds like we've all had similar kind of ways of being exposed to the game, I would say. And obviously Jonathan has briefly alluded to it, but what's your routine when watching the games live over here? Obviously it's really difficult. I mean, we'll start with you, Jonathan, but do you watch like a lot of the games, or do you kind of have a bit of a routine, a bit of a secret way of doing it that kind of works, or do you catch the games the day after? What do you do?
Well, during my college years, yeah, definitely staying up all the time to watch the games. Now it's kind of a bit more difficult, like with starting a job like basically 8 o'clock every morning. It would have been a bit more difficult. But yes, if it's a big game now, I'll definitely stay up and like I'll even have to go to bed slightly early just to wake up early to catch up on some sleep. But it's absolutely worth it. Every time I've never seen a bad Laker game. There's bad versions, like you're to say that was a bit boring, but compared to most sports, it's brilliant. So yeah, every time making sure I'm getting up fairly early to watch the games. If it's against the Celtics, I'm never going to miss that game because there's always that just added bit of kind of intensity. Like as you can see, that like sometimes the hate can be absolutely palpable, and with them being two good teams at this moment in time, it's like the best time to watch it. And don't get me wrong, when it comes to the playoffs, I'm not missing a single game. That's going to be incredible. Well, if it happens. But yeah, definitely stay up for them games.
What about you, Cole?
So I've always been a night owl anyway. So it's not too much of an adjustment for me, but obviously starting work properly, I have to be at work 8 o'clock every morning. But what I'll do, I'll just push myself through in the end a lot of the time. If it's a 3:30 kind of start and it's a weeknight, I'll always go to bed early and then try and get up for it and just see how I feel. It depends who we're playing, obviously, but I try and catch almost every game just because I don't know. I've got that obsession now, obviously. But if it's the weekend, I'll just stay up and I'll just stay through the night. And then I'll just be knackered the next day. But for some reason, it doesn't tend to affect me, which I'm kind of adapted to watching American sports now. So, I'm stuck with it.
Yeah, it's tricky for me because I'll be honest with you, I'm a bit like, I'm not a night owl. I like get up pretty early. Like if I do exercise and that, I do it like in the morning, things like that. I'm a bit, to be fair, I never really sleep that long. And so with me, like, I'm a bit soft with it, to be honest with you. I'm the type of person that, like, if we're watching a film and it gets past like midnight, I'll fall asleep. Like, I'm really soft with it. So what I do sometimes is if it's a big game, I'll watch the full thing. But if it's kind of like, a bit of a here and there game, but I've got maybe it's on a Friday or Saturday or whatever, where it fits in my schedule, I'll set my alarm for like what would be in and around an hour 15, an hour and a half after tip off, which is usually about half time. And then I'll watch the second half of the game. Other than that, if I don't watch the game at all, I watch the entire game on League Pass like the day after or 2 days after. But it is tricky because I'm in France as well, so I'm an hour further ahead. So games tip off here, like Laker home tip offs will be like 4:30 in the morning, which is brutal. So sometimes if I wake up to go to work, they're actually finishing the fourth quarter sometimes by the time when I wake up. So yeah, if it's a big game, I'll definitely watch it, or if it fits in with my schedule, I will. But that can be really difficult, and especially being West Coast. We don't really get a lot of like friendly tip-offs, like home tip-offs. I've seen a lot of like the East Coast, like UK fans are like, oh, it's really difficult supporting an NBA team. And it's like, wait 1 minute, like your tip-offs are frequently at like 11, 12 o'clock.
Your team's on at 5 o'clock every Sunday night.
Yeah, exactly.
What are you complaining about?
Yeah.
We get like 2 Sunday night tip-offs, and it's then, even if it is a Sunday night, it's still 8 o'clock. It's not like it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon or something friendly.
Yeah, I think sometimes as well, like the Lakers like are pushed to prime time, like US time as well.
Yeah.
So they are the latest possible. Yeah, so quite often, sometimes you get the Clippers or sometimes the the team that are on early in terms of UK Europe, and then the Lakers are the ones that are on late just for prime time viewing. But what we'll do is we'll continue going on. What have you two been able to go over to watch a game or anything like that?
Unfortunately, no, not yet. I haven't been to LA before. The only NBA game I got to see was actually in January. Went over to New York and I saw the Nets against the Phoenix Suns. And in my own head, I was like, "Oh, this could be a really good game." It sucked. Like the atmosphere and everything was great, but like the players I wanted to play really great. Like Devin Booker didn't play particularly good.
Right.
What else? Not D'Angelo Russell. Spencer Dinwiddie was fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like the guys, and obviously Kyrie had just got shut down for the year, which I was pretty pissed about. But yeah, it's still an excellent. Like there's no such thing as a bad basketball game, but no. Never been to a Lakers game. We're hopefully to change that really soon. As soon as this ends, I'm going to try and get over there for maybe like even 2 or 3 week period and just get as many games as possible.
What about you, Cole?
Never been anywhere but Spain. So,
okay.
That's the issue for me. But it's almost an age thing because obviously I'm only 20 now. It's a funding issue. It's it's the recency of me getting into the game as well, which makes a difference.
Yeah.
Obviously, I hope to go over relatively soon, but obviously it's all about money at the end of the day. On getting the money and then getting the time as well, to actually do it.
Yeah, I think as well. Like as you get a little bit older, I've kind of found that because I'm 26 at the moment. So like over the past few years, I've like finished university and like jumped into like work and things like that. And even when like you're at like university, you're really like tight with like money and things like that. But when you definitely get hold of your own finances and you it can be expensive to go out to LA, but if that's really what you want to do, like it can definitely happen. And I think it was, who was it in our group chat? Was it Jamie that went out and like splashed out on like deluxe seats and things like that?
Yeah, deluxe seats and went to see 3 games and he said it was amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if that's what you want to do, like ideally what I want to do is just save up a bunch of money. Like it's going to be worth it because at the end of the day, potentially it could be like a once in a lifetime opportunity just to go over since we're over this side of the world unless they come over to play games in the UK or Ireland or anywhere across Europe. But yeah, it's absolutely 100% worth it. Like I've always dreamed about going to see a Laker game and definitely have to make it a possibility, especially during this coronavirus thing. Really makes you think that like time is really, really precious, and if you really want to use it correctly and just use it to the best of your ability, kind of do the things you want to do when you have the time to do them, because you never know and nothing's promised.
Yeah, 100%. And it depends kind of your situation as well. So my first Lakers game was quite a mad one, to be fair, was at TD Garden for the Celtics versus Lakers. But we were in New York, me and shout out to Jamie. I know he listens sometimes, better be listening. We were in New York, so we decided to travel up. And that's it'll fit in with one of my questions a little bit later. And then I went to a Knicks Toronto game as well. At Madison Square Garden. So you can kind of go to a few games if it kind of fits in with, where you are. But what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break and then we're going to jump into the second half of the podcast very soon. Okay? Hey guys, I'm just going to let you know how you can save money with Fanatics UK and the official NBA Store Europe. Lakers UK are proud partners of both sites, where you can access the site through a unique web link and enter the promo code LakersUK10 at checkout for 10% off your order. This is not restricted to Lakers merchandise only and is available site-wide for both. On the Fanatics UK site, they have a wide range of NBA, NFL, NHL, Major League Baseball, as well as soccer/football merchandise. The NBA Store Europe site hosts all the NBA gear you'll ever need, from new jerseys to classic throwbacks to leisure wear. Remember though, to activate the discount you must enter each site through our unique web link. This can be found over at www.lakersuk.com/partners. That's www.lakersuk.com/partners. Alternatively, reach out to us on social media and we'll sort you out. So, access the unique links for our website, www.lakersuk.com/partners to enable the discount, and then enter the promo code LakersUK10 at checkout and watch that price drop. The code can be used more than once and can be applied to already discounted items. Save money with Lakers UK at Fanatics UK and the official NBA Store Europe. Right, so we're back for part 2 of the Late Late Show with Jonathan and Cole. Speaking about how we became Laker fans, kind of a couple of topics have stemmed off that. We were just speaking about our routines of watching games and whether we'd been to games. Obviously, Cole and Jonathan haven't been just as of yet, and I've been to a few. But one thing which I did want to add on to that quickly before we move on is some of the most intelligent minds from over here in the UK, I find, in terms of basketball, haven't always actually been to games, because you can watch footage on YouTube. There's loads of statistics sites that can give you a really in-depth analysis of the game, and obviously it's cool for an entertainment standpoint, but in terms of knowing the game, I don't think if you haven't been to a game, I don't think it makes you any less of a fan, so to speak, or in terms of your knowledge and things like that.
Yeah, I think NBA TV plays a huge part in most people's knowledge of basketball, because you can reverse and go back and look at all the games. I regularly break down games and kind of see where the Lakers can do better, where their weaknesses are, where their kind of tendencies are. It kind of, as a writer, it really helps me kind of break down the game even more, rather than just watching highlights. Because if you're just watching highlights of games, you're not really going to gain a really strong knowledge of your team. So yeah, the NBA TV has been imperative of breaking down games for me. And I think if in person, especially when I went to that Nets game, I was seeing it in person. You really do get to break down the game in a different way. But even with NBA TV, it's just as good, if not better.
I think that it's all about the commitment to it, really. So obviously, it's the time that you put into understanding it all. And obviously, we have a group chat with Lakers UK fans, and it makes a massive difference to me being able to bounce off other people, and with the whole understanding of how the game works and what is going on in the game, and analysing the game makes a massive difference when you can actually talk to people about it, and the people from common backgrounds as well, that understand it that bit more than you, and you can then go on to understand it yourself, obviously. But it's all time put in, because obviously 5 years ago I didn't know a thing about it, and now I'd like to think I'm quite versed in it almost.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of it's your commitment, and like I said in the first half, the opportunities you get, because obviously I do a bit of writing, and I'm in Paris now, and then obviously there's the NBA Paris game here. I managed to go to that between the Bucks and the Hornets, and that's just because of my location. I was lucky, literally moved over here in September, and that was in January, February or something. So a lot of it depends on where you are, or if you're on holiday and the game's fit and things like that, like Jonathan's instance with Brooklyn. So yeah, and obviously we'll arrange an LA trip for Lakers UK anyway, so eventually we'll get that sorted. So yeah, exciting times on the horizon, but we'll move on, and I'm quite looking forward to chatting about this one, to be honest with you. Ben, what is your favorite moment in your Lakers fandom? I mean, it can be an occurrence on the court, it can be a personal experience. If you can think of a few, you can fire off a quick 2 or 3 if you want. I think I've got a quick 2 or 3. But yeah, your favourite moment or moments. Can you think of any? We'll start with you, Jonathan.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I think same as most kind of relatively new Lakers fans, is the game against Boston, beating them. That was a massive, massive thing going through the history of the Lakers. In our history, I think we might have beaten them twice before that in the finals. And that was a huge kind of kick in the nuts for Lakers fans, because they always had that held over our heads. But yeah, watching, I think as soon as Meta World Peace hit that 3, I think I knew we had won that championship, and that was massive for me. Another one, would have been, I think, Kobe's last game, because it brought all together, all Lakers fans, old and new, together just to watch Kobe finish off his career. And even the most incredible thing about that is the same night and the same time, the Golden State Warriors were playing, and this was to break like the Bulls' all-time record of wins within the season, and no one was watching that game. Even like the Golden State Warriors are a juggernaut as they are, like they're one of the best teams ever, and no one was watching that game. No one was even talking about that game. It was all about Kobe, and just watching him go off for 60 points in his last game was just ridiculous. Just I even though it wasn't in the arena, you could literally feel the kind of like the anticipation and the kind of the joy of all the fans. Just that's the one thing that, like, I've always wanted to go to Staples Center before. After watching that game, I have to go there someday. It's like if I don't go there in the next couple of years, I probably won't be very happy. I'll use kind of kind words. I won't be happy about that. So yeah, have to go over to Lakers. Have to go over to Staples Center after that.
I think obviously for me, it's got to be Kobe's last game because of what effect it had on me in falling in love with the game of basketball. Obviously, it's a 5-year span, so I haven't had that wide expanse of time to look at the past success of the team, obviously. But what I was really enjoying was really enjoying the season. And it's a shame that it's been cut short, and whatever happens in the playoffs, obviously, with the playoffs, obviously we'll just have to see. But I was really enjoying this season just because it was the first real season where we were obviously doing well, and it looked like we were going to do something. And it was, I was just enjoying it because I've started to make friends through the field of basketball, which is something for someone who lives in rural England isn't something you find a lot of the time. And it's really started to expand my knowledge of the game and my enjoyment of the game. And it's just a shame that it got cut short, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think this season was going to create memories that would be people's personal favourites. I think it was going in that direction. I think there was going to be a lot of exciting playoff moments and potentially a championship at the end of it as well. And I think in terms of my answer to that question, I mean, I have a bit of like Kobe's last game is up there. Obviously, I won't mention it too much because you guys did. I don't think there's much more that can be said about that. I was watching that in the early hours, absolutely pumped. Don't think I even went back to sleep.
Me either.
Unfortunately, it makes it more special with what's obviously happened with his passing and things like that. That would definitely be up there. But in terms of a personal experience of mine, I briefly mentioned it, and it would be my first Lakers game, which was when we travelled up to Boston. We were at college at the time, and it was the night before, and the Lakers were playing. I think it was midweek. We finished all our finals, so we had no... I mean, they're kind of like, oh yeah, go to class, but like no one really does when there's kind of nothing to do. So we were like, oh, we'll travel up to Boston for the game. So we went on like StubHub, got some like tickets, proper dodgy, you know, when you get the tickets on StubHub and it's got someone else's name on it and things like that.
Yeah.
And you don't know whether you're going to get in or not and things like that. So we traveled up on a megabus, I think that costs like $3 or $4 or something ridiculous. Right. And it took maybe like 5-6 hours each way to get up and down, which obviously for us in the UK, that's like mad far. Like, but
yeah, that's, you know, one end of the country to the other.
Yeah,
halfway up the country.
In the US, they're like, that's nothing. That's just like, you know, probably a drive to your supermarket or something. But yeah, we did that, and then we went up there, and I always remember I had a Lakers beanie on because it was in November. And I like got off the megabus with this beanie on, and this guy like said, "Oh, you're in the wrong town here," and I was like, "Okay, this is going to be fun, isn't it?" So yeah, we day of the game stayed in like this little like rough hostel. Went to the game, and first time I ever saw Kobe play, only time I ever saw Kobe play, and yeah, it was a blowout loss, terrible game. I think Ronnie Price was the starting point guard. Terrible. And but I didn't really care. You know, it was the first time I got to see the Lakers. I think when you're from the UK like us, I'm sure you can speak from it in terms of when you will be in that situation, but you just like, you don't really take it for granted. It's a rare occurrence. So yeah, that was probably my best one. And I mean, a lot of people might not like this, but Boston as a city, I think is a really nice city. it's a really cool city to visit. So, you know, just putting my basketball rival hat to one side, if anyone is on that East Coast and they get the chance to travel up to Boston, I would highly recommend it. It's a chill city, to be fair. It's really a lot of cool things to do.
There's a lot of hate towards Celtics, but I will say they do have great fans. Like, that's the one thing we can't hate upon them. Like, if they really support their team just as much as we do. But yeah, fair play to them. I'm not. Like everything about my upbringing says I should have been a Celtic fan. I'm Irish. I'm Catholic. All these different things. Like, everything should be said. Like, I should be a Celtics fan. But like, the second the Lakers came along, there was no other team in my life. So yeah, fair play to the Celtics for you.
Yeah, I think when we were losing as well, we were down by like 20 odd points, I think. This Celtics fan sat next to me and I was like, okay, this is strange. Because as people leave in like the NBA, like the arena starts filtering out as like the game goes on. If it's finished, if it's pretty much a done game. So we kind of like move forward and forward to get closer and closer. We were on the upper tier, but by the end of it, we were like on like the little balcony bit at the front of the upper tier. And this guy sat next to me, and obviously I'm quite vocal anyway when I'm at sport in events anyway. And he sat next to me and was like, well, like respect for like staying till the end and things like that. And he asked where we were from and stuff like that. And he was looked like a diehard Celtics fan. And when we were walking out of the arena, I was repping the jersey and proud of the team that I support, even though we were rubbish and got trounced on the court. And it was just banter, to be honest with you. They're like, haha, you lost, like, yeah, blah blah blah, whatever. Like, and it was just, there's no like malicious comments or kind of like, we never felt threatened or anything like that. It was just a bit of fun. So I think my experience of that, it was, even though it was a loss, was actually like probably one of my favorite moments, just because it was so special, at the time.
I think that's
mutual respect.
Sorry,
No, I'm done. I think there's mutual respect between the two teams.
I think that's an interesting thing for people from the UK, especially, is the fact that we're not used to sitting next to opposing fans at sporting events. Obviously, you go to a football game, you're separated completely. And then, obviously, when I do eventually get over to a basketball game, and you watch it on the telly, obviously, and you see fans sat all together and just mixed in, and it's a completely different experience. And obviously, they don't have to avoid football hooligans fighting. that's the difference.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll lead into like the final segment, so to speak, with the podcast. And I'm quite intrigued with this one. It's it's a topic that comes up from time to time. I think a lot of people, I'm quite interested to see what your views are on this, but I wanted to talk about what you think of the NBA in terms of its growth over here. Is it growing over here? I think we'll probably agree that it is, but what's kind of your situation on the growth over here? Is it kind of a market that is blossoming? Is it a market that holds potential? Will it kind of only ever get so big, and is it kind of a bit overrated, so to speak? What do you think the UK market in terms of the NBA? We'll start with you, Jonathan.
Yeah, the thing about the UK, for many, many years, it was really niche. And it's like, even where I'm from in Ireland, it was so niche. So few people really followed basketball. But I think the NBA and different teams have made it a point of emphasis to come over and kind of spread the word. Because basketball is like a brilliant, like a beautiful sport to watch. Like, compared to football could be like 1 or 2-0. This is like, there's baskets being scored for about 5 or 6 like every minute. It's just beautiful to watch. And I think the UK is really, over the last couple of years, especially with the likes of Sky Sports and ESPN taking all the games up, they're really starting to embrace like it's a beautiful game. And when I think, especially during like the 2009, 2010, the Lakers with Kobe, that's probably where a lot of new fans came in. And then when LeBron started winning championships with the Heat, that's where even more fans came in. And then when Steph Curry was winning with Kevin Durant and Clay, loads more fans. So the teams like that are pushing the game forward, especially in the UK. And I think it's only going to get bigger and better. The main thing, like with games coming over here, you can see like there's so many more fans. Like one thing I really noticed, the amount of jerseys you see on people these days is like ridiculous compared to like years ago. Like every second person.
It's big at like music festivals. when you
Yeah,
go to
massive. Like I would always see a LeBron James or a Kobe jersey, and like even I only seen the other day, which I was shocked by. I seen a Zion Williamson jersey, and I was like, oh,
That's cool.
that's a new one. So yeah, I think it's getting much bigger in the UK and Ireland and across Europe, and it should, because it's just a fantastic sport to watch. And I think probably in the next couple of years, if the sport keeps going from strength to strength, it could potentially overtake not soccer like in the UK. That's never going to happen because that's basically a national sport. But it's going to probably take over. Could say probably second or third biggest, well, second biggest sport in the world, like easily. And I think the UK market is a huge part of that because it's just a huge fan base, and it's a lot of passionate people who love the sport in general.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's difficult to say because I'm so rural. I'm the only person that follows the NBA that I know, kind of thing. So I struggle with that. And through Twitter and stuff, obviously, the whole scape on Twitter is expanding tenfold, and it has, obviously, we see that with Lakers UK. We're starting it 2 years ago, and how it's grown. But the difference for me, obviously, is because I'm so rural and isolated, is that I have no one to talk to about it at all. I think it is growing, but it's always going to be limited by the time that it's on and the amount of commitment people will put into it. Obviously, I committed to it, but I only committed to it after I got into it through playing a game that I can play at any time at my leisure. You know, I think the games are a massive part of it, and obviously the players are a massive part of it. I'm part of the Steph Curry generation of fans, obviously. But I think it's always going to have a ceiling over here because of the time that it's on and the accessibility of it. It is obviously way more accessible because of the internet now, but it's always going to have that limit because you have to, if you want to watch a West Coast team constantly, you have to constantly be ready to either watch it the next day and know what's going to happen, try and avoid it, or you have to constantly be ready to be up at 2 o'clock in the morning and be okay with that. And that's where it falls down a bit, especially out here because of how accessible football is nowadays. It's way more accessible to get into the Premier League. The Premier League is growing so quickly worldwide as well. Obviously, you talk to people in the United States and they follow the Premier League. You talk to people worldwide, they follow the Premier League. It's so much bigger, and there's so much more money involved in it. It's so much easier to get to games, obviously. It's so much easier to just get merchandise for it, even. You look into getting a Lakers jersey that's anything other than a LeBron or a Davis jersey, you struggle completely. And you just can't get it. Whereas over here, you just go to a team shop and you get it printed and they send it to you. So it's always going to be limited by just the amount of distance it is away. But I think it is growing and it will continue to grow, but it will hit a ceiling at some point, unfortunately, just because of the way timescale works. I think it hits Australia so much better in a similar way that the Premier League hits the United States so well time-wise, because obviously when Premier League games are on, it's the morning. When NBA games are on in Australia, it's the morning. So it hits Australia so much easier because it's just during the day. Whereas here, it's almost like a specialty where you kind of get into it through someone, you get into it through some other form of media before you actually start following it.
Yeah, I think it is interesting. And I think I agree with Cole in terms of like there's a ceiling with it. Obviously, in terms of, obviously when I started Lakers UK, shout out to the Orlando Magic UK guys. That was like the only active fan page that I was aware of on Twitter at that point. Obviously, there's the NBA Fans UK ones, guys as well. Obviously, shout out to them. And when Lakers UK came in, I think we were pretty much like the third active, alongside them really. And obviously, it grew so much in such a short period of time in terms of like 2 years. But we've seen so many pages appear now. I think there's pretty much pages for like every team. But it's debatable which are active. Like, I've seen a lot come and go, and I'm not sure if they're kind of like, oh, the game's growing, or if it's kind of like they're fans that were already there that are just kind of coming out of the woodwork in terms of social media growing and being in a social media dominant generation now. It's quite tricky. So I think it's definitely growing. I don't think it's ever really been small over here. I think it's always been at a level, because I've heard of guys that are around in like the 90s in being in terms of like, I think there was a TV show on Channel 4, Channel 5, I think there was, that showed like highlights. Obviously, to the broad listeners that might not know, that's a free-to-air like channel over here, which now is like, that wouldn't happen now. And we haven't had anything like that since anyway. In my lifetime, I haven't seen anything like that on, BBC, ITV, Channel 4, Channel 5. But I think it's definitely getting bigger. I think in terms of like, I think the question isn't about it, but I think basketball at the domestic level, in terms of the British game with the British teams, I think there's a big problem. Like, I think like it can commercially be pushed more. The quality is really poor. There's teams that are doing really well, and there's teams that are just going bust, like every single year. Not to mention like a London-based team last year, which is ridiculous. But obviously the question isn't about that. It's about the NBA. So I think it's... What do you think about the NBA London game? Do you think that sold out straight away, right? And I tried for years and years and never got tickets. And I think the way they were sold was bad. Obviously, the operations of it all was bad. But do you think that was in terms of the demand of the game in the UK? Because obviously, like, people in Europe can travel to London and jump on a flight and be a couple of hours away. Not to mention, people will go just because it's like a showcase game. Do you think that actually represented the UK fan base, or do you think it was just kind of like a bit of a showcase game? Do you think if a team moved over here and there was like 40 odd games, do you think all 40 odd games would sell out or be close to selling out?
I'd say there'd be a pretty good chance it would, because there is definitely a fan base over here, and the great thing about London, it is so central. But yeah, I think there's absolutely the fan base for it to be happening, and I think, actually, I've tried to get the tickets to London games before. It's borderline impossible. Like, I'd log on just as it starts, and there might be 15,000 people ahead of me in the queue. Like, it's virtually impossible to get the tickets. But yeah, I think if they were to move a team over to London or anywhere in Europe, it's so central. It's just so perfect for people to go over. So yeah, I think it'd do unbelievably well if it did.
At the end of the day, I think the thing that needs to be looked at there, instead of whether the NBA need to expand their game, is that the British Basketball Association needs to do something about their game over here, really. And it's more so investment at the end of the day.
Yeah.
An investment from TV rights companies and things like that make the difference in just player quality and players actually wanting to play in that league. And then obviously once it becomes widely available, people will start watching it. But that's more of a question of what the British Basketball Association can do rather than the NBA, because the NBA will have, I'm sure, a London game will happen again. But the NBA can't, it's not feasible, obviously, and I know that's not what you're implying, obviously, but it's certainly not feasible to have a UK-based team or a European-based team just because of the sheer fact that they already have concerns about flying time and concerns about overnight staying time and
scheduling.
All that scheduling is already such an issue that it'll never happen, which means it's a wait to see if the game grows enough through the NBA for a television network to actually pick up the British Basketball League and run with that somewhat, and then it takes that actually being picked up and adopted as well.
Yeah, I think in terms of speaking about the NBA fandom in terms of Europe is like a huge market to be tapped into. And obviously I'm here in France and I watch like my local team here, and they're like in the top French league. And we watched them play Asvel Lyon like a few months back, probably like start of the year. I've lost track. I don't even know what day or month it is anymore. And they had Théo Maledon was playing, and he's like NBA like lottery pick in like this year's draft, probably will be. So that's kind of like the level of it in Europe, like in Europe as a whole. Like it's really big. Obviously, the UK battle to not be part of Europe, but in terms of like the European market as a whole, in terms of the NBA, it's huge in terms of being tapped into. But I think in terms of the UK fandom, I think like Cole says, there is a ceiling. But I think in terms of us as fans, we've got a podcast here. There's a lot of different outlets. There's a lot of jersey retail outlets as well. Me and Jonathan were speaking about one off air the other day, and there's a lot of people that are pushing the game. So I think, I don't think the numbers really matters. I'm not really bothered if 10 million people like it or 10,000 people like it, to be honest with you. Because even if I'm part of 10,000, I'll carry on banging on the drum. I'll enjoy the sport. I lent on the sport because it was different and no one else really liked it. And I'll continue to do that, really. So I think it will grow. I think the outlets are definitely getting bigger, and, we'll just kind of take it from there, really. But it's a really good community to be part of. I will add that on the end.
Absolutely.
And we've all met through it, and we're sat here now doing a podcast, and a year and a half, we didn't even know each other. So it's incredible what the game has done in terms of us and the platform we've got. And even we're all a short click. If we all individually wanted to get in contact with the Lakers, we can be, for whatever reason, through Lakers UK. So it's incredible in terms of a community standpoint. It's incredible to be part of.
No,
absolutely, 100% agree.
Yeah. So, I mean, that pretty much rounds off the pod, really. Thanks, guys, for jumping on. I hope you've enjoyed it. I really appreciate it. I think it's made a great listen. Before you go, do you want to shout out your socials, tell people where they can find you? Is there any work that you want to mention too? We'll start with you, Jonathan.
Yeah, you can get me at Jonathan K NBA, JONATHAN K NBA, and nothing coming up. There's going to be loads of content coming up on Lakers UK, especially from Cole. Cole's been absolutely killing it the last while.
Yeah.
So glad he passes over to Cole now to give a shout out to his work.
You can find me on Twitter at ColeJPollard7. And going forward, we're obviously still going forward with finding the greatest Laker of all time bracket. And I think we're moving into. I'm writing the article on Shaquille O'Neal, and then obviously we'll move forward to James Worthy, and then it's getting proper into the nitty gritty. So hopefully there's a good few reads in them to come out in the future anyway, in the not too distant future anyway. Yeah,
no, definitely. And I keep an eye out for that for the listeners. It is really good. There's a lot of work that's gone into that on Cole's behalf. And them articles are absolutely spot on as well, of how he breaks down either moments in them players' careers or their careers as a whole. If we push him right back to like George Mikan, it is really interesting. So do check them out to the listeners. And thanks again, guys, for popping on.
No worries.
No problem. Thanks for having us.
Yep, and to the listeners, if you enjoyed the show, be sure to tell some of your Laker friends about it. You can find the Late Late Show on all major podcast platforms. Please follow and leave a review where possible. Be sure to follow Lakers UK over on Twitter and Instagram under LA Lakers UK. Check out our website, lakersuk.com. And that's about it. We'll catch you next time, guys.